The highlight of my working career involved my parents. They grew up in the 10s and 20s years, delivering coal and mail in horse-drawn wagons and buggies. And I had the opportunity to take them to Cape Kennedy to the VIP section to watch Apollo 11 launch, taking the first man to the moon. And I got more satisfaction from that than I think I did anything else in my career. For them to have seen the changes they saw in their lifetime was phenomenal. I was blessed with great parents, gave me a work ethic and a respect for people that has served me so well through the years. I had a wonderful wife that I lost 6 years ago, who supported all of the long hours and the travel and raising the kids alone. I have seven. I always have trouble counting. I have 7 wonderful children, and at any one point I might have liked 4 of them at the same time, but that would have been an oddity. Had 6 girls, 1 boy, and with 6 girls, I tell you, the boy seldom saw the bathroom. We have 8 wonderful grandchildren, probably not going to have any more. Got 2 beautiful great granddaughters, and I feel so blessed in my life. I want to thank all of you for being here. This is, in John and my opinion, one of the most important elections we've had in a while. We believe that it's time for a change in direction. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the one issue that I believe is the biggest issue that we're facing. But John and I have done our best and resolved to talk to as many people as we possibly can during this election process. We've spoken with the chief of police, we've spoken with the fire chief, we've spoken with the golf course directors, we've spoken with a lot of ex-board members and ex-board presidents. We hope to be able to speak to the timeshare director and the 2 developing directors. Mr. Anderson, got to be a good guy. His first name's Tom, so he's got to be okay. Has agreed to speak with us. We just got to get it arranged. But our objective is to speak to as many members as we possibly can. This presented a great opportunity for us. But to touch on the one issue that I consider to be the biggest issue we have is a philosophical difference that we have with the board. I don't know any of the board members personally, so I have no personal reaction or resentment towards them. I just believe they're going from the wrong direction. We have a transparency issue. We have a communications issue. We have an issue relative to retirement community and resort, spending issue, dues issues, and what we consider to be a disproportionate attention to amenities versus the infrastructure. And the infrastructure involves maintaining the amenities that we currently have. No access to the Finance Committee meetings or to the strategic planning meetings is, to me, a critical issue to the membership. There is nothing more important about our future than our finances and our planning for the future. The board has been doing surveys. We pay for those surveys. You get the results of the surveys, and seldom do the actions reflect the results. I want to take just a minute to give you examples of what I'm talking about. They did a complex amenity survey. I'm sorry, a complex survey on more than the amenities. But on the amenities, there were 21 items that were listed for you to select the degree of importance to you. The first 4 were restaurants, golf, walking, hiking, and parks. Number 19 was a tie between tennis, indoor and outdoor, and number 21 was pickleball. You get the point. I have some major issues with what the pickleballs cost, but I have a bigger issue with the order of importance that it was given. That's just one. In terms of services to the community, there were 20 items listed. The number 1 item was public safety with our police. The number 2 was our volunteer fire department. Number 3 was wastewater treatment. Number 4 was public safety assistance, resident assistance, which basically means the police coming during one of your emergencies, not the ambulance, but the police. And if you want later, we can talk about ambulances. And number 5 was the roads and our bridges. Last place was home delivered meals. But what we're seeing is that the infrastructure items are going line. Our police department had to beg, borrow, and steal, and finally Volunteer Electric bought the radios that they needed to be qualified to communicate with the county. We spend less donating to our fire department than we do to run the tennis facility. And I kind of think, and they are not up to code. John and I both spend a lot of time with Matthew going over the issues and needs of the fire department. And that is a biggie. The one that really, I think, strikes home was the last, I can do better than that. The last one that really strikes home was the importance in your decision to purchase here at Fairfield. Number 1 was financial stability. And they still bought here, so they probably haven't looked at the financials, but John's going to talk about that. The second, as a tie for number 1, was cost of living. The third was the price and value of our property. The third was the climate, followed by natural beauty. Amenities were number 6. Tennis was number 20, and the reasons why people came. And I think if you look at the direction that the board is currently going, we are not getting really, really close to what the members want. And that's the issue that John and I want to stress, is the communications with you folks. As far as communications go, it's our objective, and I put it in print, that were we elected, we will have town hall meetings, at least on a quarterly basis, if the board won't do it. So the only way over the next 2 years that we will probably be able to impact what's going on is by communicating to you what's happening, and through your votes, you address the issues. So with that, I'll turn it over to John. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. I guess the disadvantages of being second is the first booster. Okay. And Tom basically covered the areas that I wanted to cover today for a while. But I do want to address a couple issues here. Okay. First of all, my wife and I, we moved here about 9 years ago. My wife was hanging around here somewhere. the team back there for passing those out. I want to thank Jerry and the team here for inviting us and for you folks to come, for coming today. But I don't really speak very well about myself. So I'm going to ask you, and this meeting today isn't about me, it's about you. So I'm going to ask you to read the bio, and if you have some questions throughout the day, please ask them, because I'm not going to stand up here and talk about it. But I will answer one question that my wife always asks me. I will answer one question my wife always asks me. Why are you running to the board? And then she, being Italian, she does it in her own inevitable way. She says, "What are you doing that for?" Let me just take a shot at why I'm doing this. Okay, and basically, Tom, we have philosophical disagreements. I don't know any of the people, the board members specifically. It's just that we have a philosophical disagreement. Okay, we have the most important things here are really come out of the board meetings or come out of the strategic planning meeting, which we can't go to. Okay, we use Florida data to justify $4.5 million in food and beverage losses in the last 4 years. The community club that we have over here has lost between $500,000 and $700,000 a year, every year since the day we opened the doors. Okay? We own this and run this community. Let me just give you two quick statistics. Okay, and as an engineer by education, sometimes I tend to speak in too many numbers, so if I see my wife won't back up, I'm going to shut up a little bit. Okay, but the reality is this, folks. We, being the residents that live here and the non-property residents that own property here, own 86% of all voting lots. And in terms of revenue, we bring in 84% of the total revenue that comes into this club. Okay, so it's about we. Okay, capital projects. Tom hit on some of them. Okay, we are blessed in this community of having some really great people and really smart people. And to close the doors to these meetings and not invite the people to come in and participate in this decision-making process is wrong. Okay, and there is a law in Tennessee, it's called the Open Meetings Law. And if elected, one of the things that we agree to is the Open Meetings Law needs to apply to what we do here. You folks are invited to come, and your inputs are valued. One of the other comments is they say the reason you folks aren't invited is because if you got a chance to vote, we never get anything done. Okay, I think we'd get a lot done and probably more productively if you folks were participating in these decision-making processes. Tom also hit on the fire department, okay, and the contributions that we make to the fire department. But I also think it's time that we have a real sit-down conversation with the county. We here contribute 48% of all the property taxes in Cumberland County. And for that, we get relatively little. Okay, 38%. 38% of all property taxes. Okay, for that, we don't use the schools. If you Google the zip code, we have 137 children in school age in 38558. We don't need a fire department. We don't have a police department. We have a great police department. We don't depend on the county for the police. But yet, what we do need, we need ambulances. Because of the demographics here, we need ambulances that are here at our call. Okay, little did I know, until the conversation with Matt, 7 out of every ambulance calls here go to Good Sam's. Okay, and there's a lot of statistics here about that, and I'd like to sit down with the county and have a real conversation with them about what's going on here. Okay, so with that being said, I don't see him waving the smiley face at me yet, but I'd like to yield my time saying, yes, I agree with Tom, and this is, as we said earlier, is really not about us, it's about you. And I want to hear your questions. I want to know what you think and what we can do differently. So thank you for coming. I realize some of you had to give up your golf game today, so thank you for that. But thanks a lot, and let's see what we can do to answer some of your questions. Thanks.
We'll now have a Q&A, question and answer period. It's going to be kind of unique. It's not going to be the regular dog and pony show where the questions were collected a week in advance, filtered, and fed to the candidates before the meeting even started. This is going to be live. We're going to put the candidates under the gun. If you want to ask a question, I'll ask you to raise your hand. I'll recognize you. Ask that you come to the microphone so that we can all hear you. We want questions. Please, no speeches, no derogatory comments about the moderator. and no complaining. If you do, I might interrupt. So the floor is now open for questions. Who would like to go first? Recognize you, sir. The microphone's right there.
I came here 7 years ago. Not because of golf, tennis, none of that. I came from upstate New York, which is a wonderful state, but you get away from that. I didn't get involved with what's going on in Fairfield Glade until this past year. Now my question is, I've watched a whole lot of money being spent for stuff I haven't seen being a benefit. Now, are you going to have, either one of you, are you going to have voting or any kind of participation for the residents on things like the pickle-ball court, like the music center, like the money they put in where the farmer's market is, and this new building, or this old building that was almost cut and dry for the police station. And there was never any voting. There was nothing on it. I started feeling as though the residents had no say. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I answer that, I'll take that question, but before I answer it, I want to stand next to Tom here for a second. Okay, now,
If you kiss me, it's over.
Folks, that's the
I'm alone, but not that
okay. Now that just proves to you. I don't see my wife here, but oh, there she is. That just proves to you we can smile. I've heard about all these pictures, that, you know, and she wanted to Photoshop a smile on her face. I said, no, we can smile. Okay, answer your question. The answer to that's yes. That's one of our real hot buttons. Okay, we have, as I said earlier, we have some very, very valued intelligence in this community. I'm amazed every time I go one place or here or there of how smart people are around here. Okay, and shame on us for not swallowing our pride. And I learned a long, long time ago in management positions, I'm not the smartest person in the room. Okay, but you get people involved in those decision-making processes, and it's amazing what comes out of it. So the answer to your question is yes. We want people involved in those meetings.
I'll just add to that. I think it's in the platform that's on the back of the package you got, but I'm not sure. I too would agree. There are rules in the bylaws and covenants wherein if we purchase land, additional land, we get to vote on it. If we spend more than 5% of our gross revenue, we get to vote on it. Unfortunately, that's over $1 million, right? If we spend more than, and don't hold me to exactly $1 million, but roughly, if we want to spend more than $1 million, we get to vote on it. John and I both believe that there ought to be input. Now, on the other side of that, there are issues that will come up where capital expenditures have to be made in a hurry. If a dam lets loose, if something happens with the sewage system, there are things where there's money going to have to be spent. The thing that I mentioned earlier, that John and I will, I guess when I was talking to one of the gentlemen, probably the first year that most we'll be able to do is try to sway people in their thought process, because we will be 2 of 7, and we'll need to sway people to our side of the street here. But hopefully we can get something going in that direction, to where, but it will require a covenant and bylaw change to do it, and that's not all that easy. But we are giving you our commitment. We will work to get that done. I think that's the best way to answer.
Answer the next question.
Okay.
I'll only need one. This is for Mr. Reigle. Is your residence here in Fairfield on Glenwood, or do you live in Crossville on Deep Draw?
As of December, I bought a home on Glenwood Drive over off of Lakeview. I've owned land here since '83. Have lived here between retirements on 3 different occasions. Lived out on the homesteads. When our grandkids got big enough that they could ride horses and things, we wanted a little more space, so we went out there and bought a little mini farm and lived there. I lived there 17 years before I came back to the Glade, but I've always been in and out of the Glade. But to answer your question is yes, I live here, and plan on this being my last house, put it that way. All right.
I was made aware that Wyndham had made no contribution to our fire service for 3 years as of last year. I don't know the current status, but I think that that's absolutely shameful. They claim they have no funds to contribute to our fire department. Would you be willing to pursue this and get them to pay their bill?
I'm going to take that one. The fire department, first of all, let me just say this right up front, it's first class. Okay, and I speak with some degree of intelligence because in the last 10 days, the first responders from our fire department have been in our community, and they beat the ambulances there by about 5 to 7 minutes. So trust me, they are first class, and we all ought to appreciate how great they are. Okay. Now, to answer your question, I've heard those numbers as well. I don't know that for a fact. I don't know. I know what they contribute. They contribute $100,000, but I don't know whether, in fact, they have not done that in the past 3 years. Oh, Wyndham. No, sorry. Wyndham does not. Wyndham does not contribute at all. I'm thinking about the Fairfield Club, the Fairfield Glade Community Club. Yeah. So, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
You didn't answer the question.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're, as I said a little earlier, what we need here, because of our demographics, is health care. And be it the fire department's first responders, we should fund them. Wyndham should fund them. We all should fund them, and we all should appreciate what we have. So the answer is yes.
both of you did during your introduction. This is Clyde Van here, incident. You talked about we want the public's input, and you talked about the surveys and where pickleball court and other things came on the survey. What are you going to do to, first of all, change the way you get the input, and also to follow up in some proper behavior once you've got that input?
Well, take those really as two separate questions. I mentioned during my talk that I believe that the board ought to be communicating with the community. They should be soliciting our input. They are our representatives. 5 out of the 7 on the board represent us, the property owners. That's number one. Now, how do you do that? I believe that you do it with town halls. I hadn't been involved in enough organizations with board meetings that being able to open it up for unlimited questions usually ends up that most people leave before you get everything done with the board meeting. So my proposal would be that we start having town hall meetings where you come, you tell us what you're thinking, we tell you what we're thinking, as well as opening the finance meetings and the strategic planning meetings. We've got to communicate with you. It's been said that what the board plans on doing now is to start writing articles in the newspaper. To me, that's telling us what you've done, not asking us what we ought to be doing, nor giving you an opportunity to respond to what they think they're going to do. And to me, that's a town hall meeting. And as I said during my opening remarks, if it's up to John and I, and we're on the board, and the board won't have them, he and I'll have them. To at least get the information out. Did that answer it for you? Thank you.
Sorry to hear that.
My question has to do with the relationship between the board and the general management. I congratulate you on your backgrounds, that you've been CEOs, you've been board members, you've been general managers, and that speaks heaps for what we need. That means you know how to plan, you know how to organize, you know how to manage, you know how to make decisions, you know how to weigh the consequences and the risks. Our board has a fiduciary responsibility to represent the best interest in the safety and welfare of this community. The general management has a responsibility to carry out the goals and the strategic plans established by the board. I would like to know from each of you, how do you assess where we are today relative to the relationship between the board and general management, and what, if anything, you would do differently if you were on the board?
Good question.
I agree. Okay, I've been on many boards, and in all the boards that I've been on, and some of them are, Fortune 50 companies. Okay, and I've also worked for boards, and I've learned real quick in my career that when the board tells you to do something, you need to do it. Okay, because you serve in your position at their pleasure. Okay, and I don't think that is pretty well understood here, that our management team here serves at the pleasure of the board of directors. Now, that's my first point. My second point is, I think this election comes down to qualifications. In that, I mean, I think, our board members, many of our board members are certainly great people, but they've never lived in a corporate environment and run a business. Okay, and we need people in this job that run and know how to run a business. Okay, and Tom and I both know how to do that. We've been there, done that. I guess I'd say this is not my first rodeo, unfortunately, but no, we both have been there, done that, and we have to establish a good relationship with our general manager okay, and with the administrative staff, but they serve at the pleasure of the board.
That's, you wanted it from both.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I'm taking his whistle away. Again, John and I have talked a lot about this, and in all fairness, I have an opinion, but I would rather not share it. I believe I know what's going on, but in the absence of being able to participate in meetings that are closed, I can't honestly say that I know exactly who's the tail and who's the dog. But I can also tell you, as John said, through working for boards of directors, everyone that I've been involved in, the direction comes to me from the board, not the other way around. And I just as soon leave it at that. Like I said, I have a personal opinion, but personal opinions aren't what get the job done. I think we actually have to be present and see what's going on.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Okay, do either of you or both of you have a specific plan or idea on how to deal with the continued losses through food and beverage and a community club?
Yeah, thanks a lot. At one point, a long, long time ago, when Manny was the food and beverage manager, we used to make money, if you go back far enough. If you go back to the Sassafras days, if any of you remember Sassafras, I miss that place so much. They were profitable. So we know it is possible. We just have to get the right management in there to make it happen. As John said during his comments earlier, we aren't the smartest guys in the world about everything that goes on. And the way you do it is, number one, you go to the community. We had a guy that ran, was it Hilton? I think ran Hilton food programs all over the world, who offered his assistance and was sent away. The consultants are good, but why use a consultant when we have the resources right here in the community?
Here, here.
One of the things that we both have talked about and would recommend is that we tap those resources first, have them take a look and give their recommendations, and if it seems reasonable, then give it a try. We got to do something. We're projecting $960,000 loss this year on the CCC alone. Somewhere 450, I think 450 for the food service. And this has been going on. We've lost over $1 million, and John's the one that I was going to have to do all the money talking, but we've been losing more than $1 million a year the last 4 years. Our debt to equity, I'm using his terms, he loves money. Our debt to equity ratio is getting worse and worse. We're not in any trouble yet, but you can't keep losing $1.5 million or $1.7 million on a $20 million business every year and not end up with a debt to equity problem. But we've got, and that's not crying wolf. All you got to do is take a look at the financials that they do give us, and you'll see that. But number one, see what resources we have, put together a plan of attack to address it. We need to generate new revenue sources. We have a marketing director over there in the CCC who should never be here. She should be out on the road looking for people to come in and do things. One of the things I think that inevitably we're going to have to look at is the kitchen. If those of you who have been here long enough to have raised holy hell during the development of the CCC, We argued and argued and argued that you couldn't build that without a kitchen. Well, it got built without a kitchen. And now we're told that conventions won't come in because we don't want to get too close to the speaker. Because we don't have a kitchen. So with that, I'll give it,
Let me take one. I want to read just something here in one of the papers. Tom was talking about the losses at food and beverage. Okay, and this comes out of one of the papers. This one. Okay, it says the author was talking about. The author goes on to talk about the losses in food and beverage in CC over the past 4 years, exceeding $3.5 million. And I just skip along here, and it says. And the principal debt, okay, it goes on to say, no, it wasn't $3.5 million, it was $4.5 million. Okay, we have lost here in this facility in the last, since 2015, we've lost almost $2 million a year in this facility. Okay, I don't want to get into debt-equity ratios and junk bonds, but we need to have a little better look at this.
I recognize that you're both involved with the financial piece of this thing. And we have talked about losses continually. Given the revenue stream, the potential revenue stream that we have within this organization, what would you see as a profitable target for these entities that we have here? Food and beverage, the other systems that we have.
We haven't talked about it.
Yes, please go ahead.
John and I haven't really talked about it. I do not see the need for us to be profitable. I do see a need for us to break even on our operating expenses. One of the many things to be considered, and I was here, oh golly, let me see, we moved out in 96, I guess it was, so it must have been about 95. They brought a company in to look at taking over the food and beverage operations. And by the time they got done, the company says, you're out of your mind if you think anybody's going to take it, because they had the entire Druid building as part of their operating costs. They had to assume responsibility for the entire building. And he said, we can't make any money doing that. So they walk away. So I think we got to look at what we can do. Most certainly, in my opinion, if we could get a company that would come in and run food and beverage, their show, just maintain the areas that you're responsible for, and break even, we would be so much further ahead. It's unbelievable. The CCC becomes a bigger problem. I would absolutely love to see it break even. I'm not so sure that we can ever completely get there to a break even. We most certainly can reduce the debt. Does that answer?
Thank you. Thank you.
You want to say something about it, John? Yes. You're next.
Hi, my name is Cole, but an artist. And I have a background similar to you guys. And I really understand what you're going through. I've even served on a Fairfield Glade board down in Florida at Sea Gardens Beach and Tennis. And one of the things that we have to remember is why people came here, as you've mentioned. And it is we come for a package. And so when we start looking at cost centers, individual cost centers, we have to be careful because it's part of the package. A couple weeks ago, we sat in the driveway over where we live, and we had a fireworks display. I don't know how much that cost, but it was beautiful. But that's not a cost center. It's in the package. So I would pray that what you guys are trying to do is very, very admirable, and I love your dedication to management of all these different activities. But please try to remember that we came here for the package.
What is your question?
Will you remember that we come here for a package?
Yes. And you're right. You're exactly right. We came here as part of a package. Okay? And there are years that golf makes money. Last year golf made money. This year they're probably going to lose money. There were years when the tennis facility made money. There's always years when the boat docks make money. Okay? But when it's all said and done, you have to look at the total package. And in the total package, we lost $2 million in 15, we lost $2 million again in 16, and we're projected to lose $1.97 million this year.
How are we funding
Okay. What happens when you overspend your checkbook?
that? I don't.
Well, I don't. I don't either. Okay? I don't. But what happens is you borrow. Okay? Now, I'm going to get, oh, here we go. You sit down for a minute. I want to give you some, that's a great introduction. Don't turn your clock off here. There's an article here in the paper talking about the refinancing of the debt for Stonehenge Village. I'm sorry, for the Stonehenge Golf Course. Okay? And that debt, that decision, and it just so happened that day that this came in front of the board, it was raining. Thursday's my golf day. So I decided, my wife and I decided we'd go to the meeting. And I went to the meeting and it came up to the agenda talking about the refinancing of the $1.5 million for the balloon payment on the golf course. And I said, okay, all in favor? Basically, well, we want to refinance this debt. And okay with that? All in favor? Yeah. Okay, thank you. All opposed? That whole conversation took less than about 5 minutes to happen. Okay? Now, back to what we were talking about earlier, the Financial Planning Committee. Okay? Finally, I didn't know what was going to go on. Okay? Finally, when I get the package here and read about it in the paper after the fact, let me tell you what it says. Okay, it says that we're going to establish a $5 million line of credit. As part of that. That is going to be fixed at 3.95%, may be used for construction projects with total use moved to a term loan if desired at 3.95% up till November 2022. Then it goes on to talk about refinancing the $1.4 million. Okay, what they didn't tell you, or maybe they did, but we have $6.5 million in cash. Okay, and we now have a ability to borrow another $5 million, which gives us something around $11.5 million. Okay, that they can spend, okay, basically without really talking to us. Okay, now I have a problem with that, to start with. Okay, but it goes on to talk about the fact that if that $1.5 million goes to term, which is a 15-year note, we're going to pay over $500,000 in interest. Now, why would we pay $500,000 in interest when we have $6.5 million in cash? Even after we paid it off, we still have $5 million in cash, and if we needed some more money, we could go and borrow it. And we already have the terms to borrow it. Okay, so I'm kind of rambling here for a minute, but you can start to sense my frustration with some of the financial things that go on here. And we need some folks that understand and can get to these meetings and have some input. And I'm sure a lot of you folks would be more than capable and appreciate coming to those meetings and talking about them. Did I answer your question? Probably not. but I did ramble, and I feel much better about it now.
I don't even remember what the question was. I'm ready for
You guys are managing this question. Are you going to manage our budget? Yes. Are you going to make sure that it's done right?
Let me say something right up front. And I think I've said it to and may have said it already. We would be 2 out of 7 if we're elected this year. Or I'll be more positive when we're elected this year. We can be a tremendous pain in the tail. John and I have both been known to do that. We've been friends for 45 years. We went different directions in our career path. We used to fight like dogs and cats back in the old days. Then ended up leaving from there and going to a hockey game at Notre Dame. But we can be somewhat difficult and vocal. And that's really...
Just ask my wife.
I thought he was going to say something about me. And that really would be our role the first year. As I said before, it would be wonderful if we're able to sway some of the other board members in the directions we want to go. I would be, going back to your original question, I would be absolutely elated if we could get to a break-even point.
I don't need the microphone. All the things you've been saying, I give you credit for running. I lived there 7 years. Explain to me how you're going to overcome these 2,000 votes that Wyndham and the timeshare people have. I mean, you need to get it out to the public that you are 2,000 in the hole because you're radicals. You're going against the flow here. Okay? And you need to get this out to the public. And what you're telling me, this is going to be a 4-year process. We got to get you 2 in, then we got to get 2 in more down the road to be able to swing things unless you can change people's minds.
Yep.
Okay? And, I mean, I sit here, you know, and read in the paper about you got to vote, you got to vote, you got to vote. You're wasting your time voting because you're 2,000 votes in the hole already that Wyndham and the timeshares are going to because they don't want the radicals.
Well,
so how are you going to fix this?
All right. You're absolutely correct. The number is 1,848 votes that Wyndham will give to 2 candidates. And we pretty much know who those 2 are. John and I are going to be meeting with the 2 developers, Wyndham as well as Mr. Anderson. We can't find out if Mr. Anderson owns any lots. He owns a lot of land that's not developed, but it doesn't become a voting lot until it's developed. But through the efforts of the residents' voice here, going out door to door, and I'm sure most of you have been visited, we need to overcome the apathy and contentment or whatever it is. There were 5,000 votes cast. We haven't had an election in 3 years. They came in by acclamation because nobody else wanted to run. Now the excitement and the dissatisfaction that has developed over this past year, we had 11. One of them dropped out. We got 11 running. So hopefully that's an indication that people are getting concerned. But we've got 14,000 votes if we use them. Historically, we've used 5,000, and with only 5,000 people voting, the 1,848 overrode everything that came in. So the answer to your question is the only way we can win is if people vote. And we're doing our darndest through the help of the residents' voice, through the coffees and teas and things that John and I are having, the wine and cheese party that's being thrown on the 29th, and some stuff that we're doing that we don't want to talk about because we don't want anybody else to know about it at the moment, that we're doing to try and get that enthusiasm and overcome the apathy and get people voting. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. And that's been the historic problem. The 10% of the lot ownership wags the dog. You want to say anything more?
No, he pretty much said it all. But I do want to recognize a couple people here. Okay, one of our supporters sitting right over here, Carmen Lynch. And Carmen's, most of you know Carmen. I want to thank Carmen, first of all, for supporting us, and secondly, for his years of service to us in a community. Okay, John here, again, thank you for your service, and thank you for supporting us. Woody Geisler, I don't see Woody around here, I think they're on vacation, but Woody is supporting us as well. And then we have, quite a number of other people that are supporting us in what we're trying to accomplish. Jay McCarthy with the Cumberland Mountain Windmill people. Jay's been a big supporter of us. So hopefully we can overcome that. But I was going to save this line till the end, but I'm going to use it right now. Okay. I come from northern Indiana, up in Amish country, north central Indiana, and the Amish have a saying that I like a lot. Okay, and if you're walking around with an Amish man, and he'll tell you, if you see a turtle sitting up on top of the fence post, he didn't get there by himself. Okay, and we're not going to get to the winner's circle by ourselves. Okay, we need you folks to, when you leave here, go call your friends, say, we just listened to these two guys, and they seem to make a little sense, and ask them to vote. Get active on your emails. Because it's just like meeting new people and spending time with you, and you doing the same with your friends is what's going to get the job done. Thank you.
One of you mentioned earlier about the ambulances, and I think that's something that everyone should be very concerned about, how long it takes for an ambulance to arrive. My question, and I do have one, is do you have any idea what percentage of ambulance runs in Cumberland County occur in Fairfield Glade or would be serviced by an ambulance at the fire station?
John may have a better answer to that than we do.
Since I've become a commissioner, I've kind of taken it under my wing to try to get our EMS department squared away. But it means the same in civilian life. We have not been collecting what's owed us. The billings for the ambulance runs, we're collecting heretofore only about 55% of what's owed us. We now have new direction, and with a visit from A&B Byers, third-party billing, we're provided now with tools to follow up on those claims that have been filed and rejected. Could be transposition of the numbers in the Social Security, something that simple that could be corrected. You don't just file it away. We will, I would estimate, for the first time this next fiscal year, to stop losing money with our EMS. We hope to break even. I would like to see it become slightly profitable so we can get another ambulance station in our district. Enough said.
One more thing, address the possibility of using private ambulance companies.
We looked into that. I met with some individuals and contacted other counties that have contracted all of the ambulance services. Most of those wish they had not done so. Our primary goal is to protect and serve the community. The private ambulance service seems to fall short on providing the service. We will continue with our current EMS department with improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, John. You want to say more about it? I know you like it.
Next question.
Yeah, next question.
Sir, George.
It's kind of a follow-up question to the ones you've already asked or you've addressed about the losses. I think this is a pretty big deal, but it seems to be that there's lots of misinformation. For example, I encourage people to read today's Vista. I will not state the person's name who wrote this, but he says the notion that our amenities are losing money is simply false. About 3 or 4 times in this same article, he says the same thing. Our general manager would have us believe that it's okay to lose money. I've seen this stated several times. I personally think, so my question to you is how are you going to address this and use this and come with the ammunition to actually dispute these things, which are being stated as facts by various people?
Good question.
Dwight Hunt, thank you for your question. To answer your question, I think oftentimes if we tell a story and we tell it long enough and often enough, we begin to believe it ourselves. Okay? And all I would say to answer that question is go to the Fairfield Glade website and you can find all the information you need to know. That since the historic data there goes back to 2000 and I think it's 10, and at no time the audited results show that we have lost money every year since 2010. Okay, so I don't know how you address that other than with just honesty and honest questions, and honest answers. We've lost, I'm sorry, it's Dwight Wages, a friend of mine, Dwight Wages back there. But we've lost money. And the CPA audited results will tell you that.
There's been a number of things that we have heard coming back from the contacts that we've made and talking with people about the fact that we are speaking from a position of no knowledge, and therefore we are not speaking truthfully. I have never heard a more untrue statement than the one you just quoted, to be honest. Really, all you got to do is look at the performance. I would love to see all of our amenities break even. I don't know how you do that with parks and with walking trails and those kind of things. There are going to have to be things that we subsidize, but there's also things that we can do to make sure that the operations are run in a reasonable manner to maintain the quality that we want. That's one of the other hits that we've taken, that we want this place to go to hell in a handbasket. That's the last thing we want. Like I said, I've been here since 1983. Love this place. Don't want to see anything bad happen to it. But if we concentrate on amenities, new amenities, at the expense of the rest of the community, the amenities that we have are going to deteriorate, the services that we have are deteriorating, and there's got to be a balance with those. So, if you, again, as John said, if you go to the financials and you're going to see that we're losing nearly 10% of our revenue compared to our revenue. And that's coming from somewhere, so I have no idea what the source of that information was for them. Thank you.
The lady in black. I have my question. Use the microphone.
I got a couple things, but the first one is, what are your thoughts about the so-called proposed town center?
Here's now you're getting my opinion, and it's kind of the same one that we've been hearing from people. The town center is privately owned by the store owners. If you weren't aware of it, I thought for the longest time that it was owned by one person and leased it out. But it's treated a little bit like a condominium. There are individuals who own their stores. Clem owns his, Kroger's owns the pharmacy. Mr. Brown and Mr. Offutt own a number of places in there. But there are other private owners, and I'm not sure of them, so I won't say any more than what I've mentioned. But number one, that's a private facility, not a part of the Glade. No part or ownership of the Glade. The Glade used to own it, and they couldn't run it, and so they gave it over to individual private ownership. The developer, whoever that may be, and whether that's Mr. Anderson or not, we don't know yet, but he mentioned in his remarks that were in the Vista that he would like to see that area developed. I think that's the greatest idea in the world. What I don't agree with is our money being spent to promote it and to advance it. There has not been a meeting held yet with those property owners done by anybody else but our general manager. The developer has not stepped forward in any fashion so far. It would be nice if we could improve it. I personally being single, I hate cooking at home, and so I eat out a lot. So I spend a lot of time at Mexican and you can't tell, at the Mexican restaurant, and it's Clem's Villa. And you're talking about throwing those guys out if they buy it. Be down for 2 years, I think is what they said, was a 2-year building plan on it. So they'd be gone for 2 years and then expect them to come back. I don't think it's going to happen. But anyhow, I am not opposed to upgrading the town center. It should not be a Fairfield Glade Community Club expense.
And I agree with Tom, okay, but I would say this, that because a lot of people think we're anti-growth, about everything these days, okay, but we welcome fiscal responsible growth, okay? We welcome controlled growth, we are against waste, okay? And as you look at, and I'm probably going to get hung up when I say this, I'm a Sox fan, okay? And if you go into Chicago, you'll see that they renamed most of the ballparks in Chicago, but they have naming rights. Okay, and if we look at some of the things we have here, I agree with Tom in that I'm for growth. I'm just not for spending our money for that growth. And we can offer some naming rights and some other things to get some involvement by other folks into some of these assets and things that we want to build.
Next question. Sir.
Assuming we're successful and we get you guys in, we've just gone through, I think, an atrocious behavior by our chairman and board relative to Anderson coming into the picture. These folks, both parties, the board and Weber, have known this from about May 15th. To my knowledge, except what I read in the paper, I have gotten nothing from either one of them. The question is, assuming you're now on the board, what do you think the two of you can do to change this behavior?
Well, hopefully something in the first 2 years or first year. But again, remember, we're two of of 7, okay? In terms of their behavior, in the way they announced it, okay, I'm gonna say if you haven't read the article, you need to read the article written by Carmen Lynch when that occurred. I think that probably fairly represents my thought processes in it. I think it was, I don't know their motives, but I think we deserve better treatment than that. That they deserve, they have a fiduciary responsibility, if nothing else, to tell us what was going on.
The only thing I'll really add is they knew about it on the 11th, not the 15th. The paperwork was available getting it on the 17th and could get no response from the board about it when we asked. We still do not know what the actual division of the votes is in terms of whether Mr. Anderson has any voting privileges or not. The only way you stop that stuff is by communications. And as I said before, if we don't get the board to communicate, then John and I will. There's intimidation is quite often a way to make things happen. If they want to control what's said that's coming out, then they can say it first or let us say it. That's really about all you can do.
To call for a town